Detroit City, where stars shine in the east, inside a safe space creating perfect vibes for poetic prophets to light up the D, with creative energy flowing over rivers, streaming through woods into universal hoods where 313's authenticity is consistent from front to back, no matter how it's cut. Innovators raised by a strong hand, warmed in a mitten thrive when real ones rock mics, spitting fire in a chilled spot where poetry is welcomed with open arms. So sit back, relax, come and get this love from your Motor City hostess, Tia Lise, on the B-side.
Come chill with vibes and verses.
Okay.
What up, though? This is Jazmine. I'm going to do these two pieces for my girl Tia Lise. The first piece is titled, I Get Chills. I get chills when I see black bodies, living, loving, lynched. When I hear black voices loud, laughing, laboring. When I feel black folk in illumination, liberation, lamentation. I get chills when I see my people. So forgive my outburst, ignore my fits of exuberance. My worship is unhinged. When you see me, just remember that a Pentecostal praise looks like fire, shut up in shackled bones. Grief and excitement can set a soul ablaze. We hear gunfire during celebrations just as much as we do war. I am just a bullet being set free. My altar is the stove my grandma cooked on. We sacrificed more than hogs for the sanctity of blackness. Shucked peas, jived some goddamn turkeys. These meals ain't of milk and honey. This cattle was tenderized and brined over a period of 250 years, farmed to cultivate lands robbed of its culture. Don't ask if you can have a taste. This flavor costs too damn much. Our pulpits echo messages that pierce souls deeper than a mother's foot in a pot of greens. So just call us African proverbs, because only Lord folk can tell stories like these. Fables be a damned Mississippi tune. We dipped hymns in molasses, literally made shit taste therapeutic. I get chills. Oh, I can't contain myself when I feel the way notes fold in between vocal cords. We dip vows like vows and land somewhere over rainbows. I glow when dances become communion. Every family reunion is like first Sunday. We congregate like the holidays and fail not to be present because doing the Lord's work is a full-time job that sometimes starts with a Tamia hustle and ends with someone's grandmother leading family prayer. I get giddy when I hear my aunties laugh. Ain't shit funny. But with them, everything is a joke. Surviving is the punchline. Don't be dismayed. Depression doesn't thrive here. They see shit and remind us that shit happens. And it's the same shit, just a different day. Because if it ain't one thing, it's another. Another thing I get excited about. When I see us making struggle look like a full course meal we devoured, like mac and cheese, like greens, like my grandmama's banana pudding. Oh my God, they served us hot plates on silver platters. So no matter the cards dealt, we gonna slam the highest spade we got down on the table, deep fry some catfish, throw a party, play some loud ass music. Cause you ever had a cold in the summer? You ever heard Whitney sing? Ever seen strange fruit hanging from picnic trees? Ever watched Bernie Mac's first appearance on Def Comedy Jam? Yeah, that shit'll give you chills too. It's contagious. They can't steal what's not tangible, can't appropriate a culture that's been cold for this long. We've been cooling for a while. They just started to catch this chill. Just remember, if they be flu, influenza, the common cold, then we be pandemic, like epidemic, like we thrive in unfavorable conditions. And ain't that inspiring? Don't it motivate you? Don't it just give you chills?
I love it. I love it. I give you applause on that.
Oh, thank you.
what up, though, family? It's your girl, Tia Lise, the Motor City Sis, and I am in studio with none other than Miss Jazmine for Vibes and Verses, and I'm so geeked that she came to the studio. What up, though, sis?
What up, though? I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I want to make sure you speak into the mic a little bit so I can hear you on both of these. But now, I got to tell you guys how we met. This is kind of funny. We met at the All City Slam Showcase, right? Mm-hmm. No, the All City Slam Finals, right? Yeah. And I was a wild card. So, I hadn't competed. I was just going, he could have had me as the sacrificial lamb, right. But some of the people I knew, but I was going by myself. None of my friends could, attend with me. So it was the first time in a very long time that I had attended an event by myself. Mm. And I just happened to sit in front of Jazmine. So and she was there with her family, and we got to chit-chatting, because Tia Lise be talking. We got to chit-chatting, and she took the video for me when I performed. Yeah, yeah. But when I knew I was going to ask her to be on the show was when I heard her poem. Mm. Because it was the one about family matters that were with Steve Urkel and everything. And I was like, that is so dope. And because I love that show, I was right there with you the whole time. And I was like, okay, that's talent. Ooh. So she needs to come over to the station. Wow. So I am geeked that she's here, because she had just met me. She probably went home and was like, that little talkative lady.
No, I know how you felt, sis, because when I be places by myself, I'm uncomfortable. I'm kind of awkward. So
yeah.
So I had to sit close to you and, nudge you a little bit every couple minutes.
You did, and it helped. Trust me. Good. It helped. It was cool. So I got to start your interview like I start everybody else's. What's your poetry story?
That's a good question. So I just love writing in general.
I love it.
I've been writing since I was in school. That's what I went to school for. Shout out U of M.
Okay, Wolverine, I see you.
Maize and Blue. So that's what I went to school for. And funny story, I knew I was good at writing when my first year of college, I went to Wayne State.
Okay.
And I was in an advanced English class. And my professor, she asked a weird question the first couple classes, and I didn't get what she was saying. And in front of the whole class, she's like, that's why I don't like when they send DPS students here unprepared.
Oh, child. Baby.
My
girl,
18-year-old
baby girl.
self, I'm like, why am I offended? This doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up writing a paper for her, and she pulled me in the hall, and she said, plagiarism can get you expelled from the school.
Oh, so she kept going with it.
So I was like, I must be a pretty decent writer.
Absolutely. If she thinks she plagiarized.
Right.
But still.
Yeah. I passed her class with the highest percentage.
Right? I bet you did.
Thank the Lord. Thank
God.
I bet
you did.
But yeah, from then on, I just made sure that I continued to pursue it, because I was in poetry when I was in school. Honeycomb was one of the first people that gave me a spotlight in the city. I performed at 1515 Broadway.
Yes! Girl, that was back when I was super scared to perform, okay?
Oh my goodness.
I was going to see, the slam team at that time. At that time, it was like Cassie Poe and who? Oh my God, versus Jamal Mays.
Wow.
Sparrow. Yeah.
So many people.
Those were the days.
So many people. It was like it was a different time. Different poets, and now I love what's happening in the city. But that is my poetry story. Honeycomb was one of the people that made me stick with it, giving me that platform.
Dope.
That professor, letting me know how gifted I was, and then what's been keeping me going lately is my husband. He does not shy away at the opportunity to tell me about how gifted I am as a writer.
I love it.
These last couple of years have been because of him pushing me.
That sounds familiar on so many levels. Let me first say, kudos to you and how mature your 18-year-old self was. Because I know how I would have reacted in that sense, and it would have been on the news. So I'm so impressed that even that young, you knew how to flip something that was it was shot at you like a dagger so negatively, and I'd have looked for for the instructor to be reprimanded, because that was just wrong.
So
you
I
know,
knew
on so many
of-
levels.
Yeah, I knew of racism back then. We read about it. I went to African centered school, so I knew what it was. But identified it in that moment. I was like, this feels weird. It feels different. I'm offended, but I did not know how to react, and I did not know that that was racism in that moment.
Got you. But I love the way that you handled it, and because you gave the ultimate coup de grace, because you passed the class with the
Absolutely.
highest percentage.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So, who's the fake? Who's the phony?
Right.
But so great work, great work.
Thank
But then also too, the support you're getting from your husband. You know, that's rare in and of itself, because I think the reason that I ran from poetry, I wrote poetry quietly as a secret for years of my life. You know what I mean? And it was really my husband, before he became my husband, that was like, you know, you should just keep writing. You know, this, you might be on to something. You know what I mean? So it always helps, because it's hard when you have embraced your artistry, but in those quiet moments, you know. It's real easy when everybody sees how sweet you are, baby. If you happen to make it to the finalists of Motown Mike, they'll have you feeling like a star.
Yeah.
But it'll only be for 5 minutes. And then you still have to keep that momentum going. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard in the quiet moments. And I think that's true of all artistry. But I think poets get it the worst, because oftentimes people respect our artistry the least. We're on the lowest bottom. We're on the bottom of the totem pole as far as artistry. You know, a singer, yeah. A dancer, yeah. You know, a comedian, yeah. But, you know, a poet, a painter, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? But either way, you know, we're not always hot, and we're not always as confident in ourselves as you think we are. You know, and so it can be very easy to kind of succumb to those quiet moments when you think no one's listening, no one's paying attention, you know, and then somebody's in your ear like, you better not stop. You better not stop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or keep going. You're doing fine, and this and that. So I dig it. And I was excited about you coming over, because I had only heard one poem. You see what I'm saying?
Right. You see, right?
But I knew it was slick.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I was looking forward to what I was going to hear over here today.
Nice.
You know.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you kept at it.
Now I'm asking you, what do you have coming forward in the artistry sector? Do you have any performances or anything you're looking to, you know, participate in coming up?
Yeah,
What's coming
absolutely.
up?
So you had my teammate on here, Urban Obasaki, a couple months ago, but we'll be doing the National Slam this summer. Yeah, so we're going to Southern Fried this summer as a team. I'm looking forward to that.
That's dope. That is dope.
Also, right? It's gonna be so. It's gonna be my first National Slam.
Okay.
So, I'm also performing at the Light Museum
Okay.
in April, the 17th. Their third Thursday show. I'll be there.
All right. Well, you send me some information on it, because I want to come and support. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I will be there. That's what's up. And then I want to ask you too. So you perform. You're going to the Slam national thing. Tell me, what have you noticed? Is there anything? What is your? I always ask people this. What is your biggest pet peeve of things that you've noticed or seen on the circuit that you would like to see change, or you know, people get better? And think of it from the perspective of your audience. And for curators, you know, to know moving forward, because it's so much competition in retrospect to, you know, having venues. You know what I'm saying? And I know all of them are looking to do something to stand out, because you need to fill your seats.
For sure.
You know, so as a performer, what are some of your pet peeves?
So I think with a lot of poets, our biggest pet peeve is the trauma porn of poetry. Like,
Break it down, sis. Break it down.
Oh my
I love
goodness.
it.
We talk about this a lot, but the poetry having to be traumatic and sad, and oh my goodness, this is what I'm going through. There's a space for that. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
And if that's your truth, then that's your truth.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be your only or whole truth.
Absolutely.
So that is kind of a pet peeve of mine, because I like to uplift a lot, and I feel myself kind of gravitating towards trauma because it gets the reaction from the crowd.
It does. And you know what? I the first time I really noticed that was at the Slam we were at. Because we were, and it was some fire, mad talent in that Slam,
absolutely.
right? And I think I was like the third or the fourth one to perform. But the people that had went before me, the subject matter was so heavy. And I was like, we got to get through 10 poets. You know, so in that moment, I decided to change my piece because I wanted to do
Wow.
something. I wasn't in the mode of competition.
Mhm.
I love this space, and I have ran from slam poetry all my life because it can be brutal,
Mhm.
and I'm sensitive.
Mhm.
I know this about myself. But you know, when fluent calls, baby, you got to
Absolutely.
go. So
Legend in the game. You gotta go.
okay, so of course, you know, I went or whatever, and I was, you know, flattered that, you know, he was like, "Come be the wild card." I'm like, "Cool." So I was like, "Let's take this. Okay, I'm gonna let them know about me because I know y'all ain't seen me often." So that's why I did my B-side piece, as
Okay.
opposed to something because I have those heavier pieces too.
Okay.
But I didn't want it to be a cry fest before we got to halfway.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I figured if I could do something that could get people, you know, it's always good when you could get, when you're doing something catchy in a poem and you could get the audience, get you enough to sing along or to
Yeah.
go along,
Mhm.
then you know you've at least done a little
Mhm.
something. And I was satisfied with that. You
Good.
know what I mean? So I get it though, but she said they call it the trauma of.
Yes, the trauma porn. Yes.
I like that. I like that. So guys, lighten it up a little bit, or
Yes.
just give a little, just give different variations. You know,
Mhm.
poetry is so wide open. You know, and you don't have to be sad to be deep.
No. Oh my goodness.
You
no,
know, as you can see, because I got chills. You know what I'm saying? I was listening.
That's my favorite poem.
Is it really?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what brought you to that poem? How did you come up with it?
So, I am not a very talkative person
Okay.
unless I am talking about certain subjects, my family
Mm-hmm.
or black people.
Got you.
And there are certain times when we talk about black people and we remember certain situations, like hearing Whitney Houston sing
Yes.
or laughing at Bernie Mac.
Yes.
And in those moments, just realizing how dope we've been in spite of,
Mm-hmm.
because of,
Mhm.
while going through.
Yes.
I get chills.
That's dope.
So I'm like, oh my, I have to write about this. I have to get it out some type of way because it's just so much energy bottled up because of my people I want to write about.
That's dope. That's dope. You make me mad I ain't had you over here in February for Black History Month. It went just right on through. But it's cool.
It's
We in
always
Women's
Black
History
History
Month.
Month.
That's right. Black
Yes.
History 365. Okay, so now with that, what are some of, because we asked about pet peeves,
Mhm.
and I always want to make sure I am on both sides of the spectrum.
Okay.
So what are some of the innovative things that you've seen over the years at venues,
Mhm.
or, you know, not even just, and when I say at venues, I'm not just speaking about slams,
Mhm.
because slams have their own language. I
Yeah.
really believe that, because it's a competition. You know, somebody fighting for a belt, a prize, something.
Mhm.
But even in the open mics, you know, I imagine that, you know, again, uh, vendors, the curators are looking for different ways to stand out among the crowd, so people will want to hit their stuff 1st.
Mhm.
So what have you seen that's like you thought was dope or innovative, or they should do more of, or what do you think that they can bring in
Yeah.
to kind of set themselves apart? What would you like to see?
So two things I've seen lately that I think are really dope is one, sharp pens.
Mm-hmm.
Sharp pens is really dope. So if you haven't been to a sharp pen before, it's where they have two sharpeners,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have poets volunteer to go up. They'll do their work, and then they'll get feedback from the sharpeners. So you're sharpening their pen, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it's dope because, like you've said, some of the poets have said in previous interviews, we don't get a chance to explain our work or expound on it,
Right.
or even give feedback on another person's work.
Right.
You'll just have to kind of go behind the scenes and talk, and oh my goodness, that was dope. That one part where you said, or try to catch somebody after a show and give them feedback on their piece. But
Mhm.
Sharp Pens gives you an opportunity to do that in real time,
Right.
and get feedback from not just one dope artist, but two.
Right.
So that's one thing that I think is really dope. And then the other thing is poetry in the park in and of itself is just dope because the energy that they've built back into Detroit with the poetry scene is just massive. But also because they've started doing this thing this year where they'll bring in an OG poet.
Yeah.
I love it. I love bridging the gap because I was concerned about that, going to places like Sharp Pens and Poetry in the Park. I didn't see a lot of the older poets that I love.
Absolutely.
The OGs that I loved, and they've been honoring those people who kind of paved the way for us to be in this space.
See, that's dope. That's dope. And I did see that because Soulful was telling me, he was like, sis, now, you know, you got a condition, so you want to wait till it gets a little warmer to come out to Poetry in the Park. And I was like, okay. I said, but I'm coming because I think it's dope, you know. But then also, just, I've spoken to a lot of people, and, I love the fact that it seems that you guys, because to me, you guys are the younger set. You know what I'm saying? In a sense of, when I started my poetry experience, I was in my 30s, early 30s, right? So I was a mom, and I was scared to death. I was going to visit the spots first.
Okay.
And I went to a couple workshops, where they helped out a little bit, so I can appreciate sharpen your pen. It's just like, seems like every time I see one, I hear about it too late to make the arrangements to code, so those are things that's on my radar too. But I just think you guys are so much more welcoming. You know what I mean? And maybe back then for me, it might have just been because I was so scared. You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't even, I'm too scared to walk up to people and just start. But everybody that I've met in the later years has just been so welcoming just on GP. You know what I mean? And y'all make me feel so comfortable.
No, I agree.
And I think that's cool. I think that's cool, and competition has its space, don't get me wrong. But everybody that's slick is not defined simply because they go through, and they win matches and things like that. I've heard a lot of slick people, and I don't know that they've won contests, or won slams, but they are slick, and they have somehow been able to make a living at this, even if it's on a small scale, and that's what we're looking for, you know what I mean? So I think that's cool.
No, I definitely agree with that. This generation is way more welcoming. I think what took place before, because I've been in the middle, so to speak. So I've been to places like Rust Belt where it was just like completely like competition.
Right.
I see you as competition, so I'm walking in like, no, we Detroit poets. Hey, what up, though?
And they're like,
we focus.
right,
I'm trying to get my head together, right? But this generation is a lot different. They're welcoming, they're encouraging, and I think what you needed back then is different from what you need now. Like now, you just need talent, you just need skill, and not even so much because they have people in place that'll encourage you, and you'll see so much that you'll get built up to being as talented or as gifted as you need to be in these spaces. But back then, you needed talent, grit. You needed to be your own encouragement.
Absolutely, and you had to have a skin that was thick as a wall. Not because people would dog you or anything, but sometimes people would be up. I remember somebody I was at a Fluent show years ago, and it was one of the love themes shows, and it was Caesar. Caesar went up, did a poem, and of course, whenever Caesar hits the mic, it's fire. And he was like, okay, next, Tia Lee. I'm like, I just got on the mic like, so you want me to go? Yeah, this is funny. It wound up being an icebreaker for my performance, but I was really serious. Like, how you going to send me up, behind somebody that was so strong, and so impactful? I'm like, he could have been the closer. Ain't nobody trying to go after him because he had just brought the house down. But nonetheless, I get what you mean by that. This is what I also want to know. Was your first performance competition or just open mic?
No,
or a performance at like school or something to that effect,
Right. First, let me just say I'm glad you know your power now, because we wouldn't be here if you hadn't. So thank you so much for constantly pursuing. But my first performance, I would perform in school. Like I would miss a paper and I would tell my English teacher, I'm just going to write a poem and give me extra credit for it. And they would be like, no, until I did the poem.
That was dope.
Right? I'm like, I'm going to bargain and get my A+ in this class. But outside of that, I was telling you about Honeycomb. It was a space where she allowed young people to come in and do their poetry. It was kind of an open mic, but it was already set poets to come in.
Oh, okay. So that's how you kind of got your performance chops.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to write. How long did you write before you started performing?
Ooh, years. I think I started writing in elementary school, and I didn't start performing until high school.
Exactly. See, I started writing probably I used to write a little bit even in high school, but I did write whenever I would get upset. That was one of my calming mechanisms when I was in college. So I would write a poem, and I wouldn't sign it. I wouldn't put my name on it. I'd just type it up and put it on my wall. So first of all, you had to be cool with me to come to my room. And then secondly, you had to be observant enough and there long enough to just be like, hey, hey, that's nice. Where you get that from? And I'd be like, I wrote it. They'd be like, you lying? No, I didn't. You know, that's how I would do it. I didn't start performing until probably mid-30s, late 30s
Wow.
when I started performing. And it wasn't, like I said, you know, back then, it wasn't as many options, you know, and then, you know, the places that were known places like Mahogany was over by the time I came home from college, you know what I'm saying? And I went to 1515, but I never performed there. I went to watch the people who were hot at that time when it was a closed mic, you know, so I didn't have any place that I could find like a portrait home. I had just started, I did like going to, what used to be, the Key Club.
Okay.
When it used to pop. That's when I started performing or whatever. And I mean, you know, it was cool and everything like that, but I still couldn't go every week because I had a baby. I was a teacher. You know what I'm saying? So that was the Thursday night. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, baby, if I had fun at that on Thursday night, it wasn't looking good on Friday morning at 6 in the morning. So I was like, I couldn't do it often like I wanted to, you know. And of course, by the time my daughter was a little older and I had changed professions,
Okay.
those spots were defunct and had changed. You know what I mean? So then I just got my my chops from just performing in different spaces. You know, if they had an open mic at Campus Marshes or you know something like that.
Nice.
You know, so that's kind of how I did it. But when you first performed, right? Did you know you were going to do it again, or did it take like? Did you just be like? Did you get the bug immediately to perform?
So when I perform a piece, and I don't know if you ever do this, T, but you write lines, and you sometimes you don't even know the fullness of those lines when you write them. It takes somebody else reading them, and pulling something out of it. Well, when I performed at Honeycomb show, she stopped me like 3 times, and she was like, "I told you this was a kid's show. You can't say." And I'm like, "What?" Back and read my poem. But when I was reading that night, I knew that I was going to continue to perform because T. Miller was there.
Yeah.
And T. Miller said one of my lines in its fullness, and she was like, "Oh, that was really good." And I said, "Oh, T. Miller then complimented me on one of my poems."
That's the best.
Okay, right?
That is the best. I remember, I just had that experience. I had it twice last year. It was the whole Motown mic was so random this year for me, right? It was real random. And I just that Detroit piece that I did that got me in the competition, I had wrote that when Detroit was in bankruptcy. So when I was mad, because everywhere you would go outside of the city, they was clowning my city, you know, and talking about the scandal with Kwame Kilpatrick and all this mess. So, and regardless to how you feel about it, I take my city personally,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
So I just, you know, I had wrote one version of it back in 2012. And then the computer died, hadn't saved it, you know. I just remembered the first half of it. So when I did Motown Mike the first time, I was inspired and said, "Ooh, I got this copyright I've been sitting on for like 20 years. I had a name and everything and all these poems, but I hadn't published it." So I was like, okay, I'm going to put that Detroit poem in there, but I got to write another half because I don't remember the other half of the poem. Plugged up one of my old hard drives and found the original after the book was published. So now I got to merge them because now I got hot lines in the old one and hot lines in the new one. You know what I mean? So I went ahead, you know, did that, got to it, did the poem, performed it down here, sitting right where you were sitting. Went to upload the video. File was too big.
Wow.
So I was like, somebody trying to stop me from being great. So I uploaded it to YouTube, made it private, and then sent the link. You know, uploaded the link to Motown. You know, and I let it go. I just was like, yeah, okay.
It is what it is.
Right, and they were supposed to contact us like on the 8th of August, and I was checking my email that whole day because I had out of town guests in town. So, you know, every time I check back, I'm like, I ain't seen nothing from Motown. Okay, I ain't make it. Girl, on the 9th, they hit us. It's like, yeah, congratulations, you're a finalist. I was like, oh, that's cool. Well, it was like, you got to do a slam.
What?
Because when I did Motown Mike, that was when it was still COVID.
Okay.
So they had, everything was digital, you know, everything was, you know, virtual, whatever. They like, no, we back. It's a slam. I'm like, okay, let me check the date. They was like, yeah, Sunday. They let us know Friday.
Oh,
It was Sunday.
Ain't nobody tell me nothing.
It's one of those moments. This is one of those moments. I was sitting there like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we know what poem I'm gonna do. They're not getting nothing new today. They gonna get that same Detroit piece, you know. And when I got up there and I did the piece, I saw Fluent was supposed to host that day, but I guess it was a schedule conflict. So they had one single rose host. And when I got up there, I did the poem. It was received well. I loved it. They was calling me Miss 313. I was digging that. It was great. And then Fluent came up to me and was like, sis, you done came a long way. Baby, that was just...
What did he tell you that for?
That girl, that was just it. And then when I was so geeked to have Mike Phelps as my mentor, yeah. And when he was telling me, I had went for one of our sessions and, you know, I did the poem for him a couple times, and he was like, the only thing I want you to do is put a little more emotion to it as you go. Get stronger with it, and almost by the end, act like you mad with it. I was like, really? You think that'll come off? I said, because I'm Smiley Stevens. I smile all the time. I'm always cracking a joke. I said, so you think it'll come off? He said, just get mad with it. And that was exactly what I needed. So even though I didn't place in the competition, that was probably the best response I got from crowd. You know what I mean? And those were two poets that I have looked up to and watched for years. So even the fact that they, especially with Fluent, because he don't watch me grow, you know, so those moments when somebody that you look up to, you know, gives you that, like, or I remember when Katrina Storm was hosting at They Say, and I had wrote a poem called Artistry and Ambition, and the motivation for the poem was because a clique of people who were like regulars to that particular set were in the back, and they were kicking it, and they were loud, and Katrina kept having to kind of ask the audience to respect the mic, you know, because you still had people who were out there for the first time, you know, and I don't think their intention was to necessarily be rude, but because you are a performance poet, you had to know that at some point you are being rude, and I kind of got mad, you know, and I was the last one on the list, so
That's when really people start.
Exactly. So I just kind of went up there, and I already had a nice little buzz. I had me a little wine. So I got up there, and I just spit the poem, and I kind of spit it like I was mad. You know, I just went on and spit the whole poem. And I had a standing ovation. And Katrina Storm came back to the mic and was like, who knew? Because literally sitting over in the corner, quiet, just, you know, supporting everybody else. So when I went up there, I know they wasn't expecting I was going to come like that. And I didn't expect that they were going to receive it like that.
No, but they did.
You know?
They shut up there.
They did. And like I said, it was the end of the night, so everybody was leaving anyway. But they could have just left out, which is what I thought they were going to do. But whatever energy I was given, it was enough to make people stay and be like, okay, what'd she say? You know, real quick. And it wasn't even that long a poem either, so, you know. Yeah.
So you mentioned that it was a little bit rough to mesh in those spaces, but you also are mentioning a lot of people that have helped you along the way and kept you encouraged. So we've got Joel Fluent, we've got One Single Rose.
Yes.
Who are some other people that have like kept you motivated throughout the process?
When I first started, Cassie Poe was just such a sweetheart, and she was running workshops and, you know, open mics or whatever, and she was always very welcoming and just always with such a sweet spirit, you know. It was a nurturing spirit, and, you know, I was so new to it, I really needed that. That's how that's letting me know how long it is. Okay, but yeah, she's one. Sparrow was another one. Yeah, because when I first came into the poetry sector, well, into the entertainment sector outside of poetry, I started writing my books and partnered up with one of my college friends, and we created an entity called the Live Ladies of Literature. So we had a free series that would be at the Bigby down at that used to be at Wayne State.
Okay.
It would be, the series would run. It was called Coffee, Arts, and Entertainment. And it would run from like October through May. We would do it every other month, and we would call people who were doing anything artistic or community based. You know, it was no cost. You know, but you could come and you could get your 10 minutes to just, you know, tell everybody what you're up to in the city. And it wound up catching fire. And Sparrow came in one of them. and he was just so inspirational. I was like, I just can't wait till I get to that point in my poetry where I'm comfortable. And he was like, baby, you at that point now. You hosted this. We're all here because
Right.
you created this. And I just was like, well, yeah, but I'm saying. He like, nah, you'll be okay. You know what I mean? So years later, when I finally did make Motown Mike the first time, he was one of the mentors.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? And of course, you know, by the time I did last year, he had passed.
Yeah.
So, you know, those people have been so helpful over the years. And just, you know, when you dip off the scene for a while, you tend to think that people don't remember you. You know what I mean? And everybody that we've mentioned or that I've mentioned, you know, they let me know, like, I remember you. Hey, girl, you back? You still out here? That's what's up. You know what I mean? So it's been cool. It's been really cool. But the great part is to be able to meet people like you and you
And
guys.
pave the way, keep us
Talk,
encouraged.
exactly, because you know the youngins have taught me so much. What I'm learning now is to get more comfortable. You know, when I first started writing it seriously, Girl Duff Poetry Jam was out. So everybody thought when you wrote poetry, you had to keep it cute. You feel me? You had to keep it cute. You had to keep it television. You know what I'm saying? You had to be like this and like that, you know. And what I notice now, like we were talking about, you know, the trauma poetry or whatever, but people are comfortable in their vulnerability, you know, and that's something I haven't been. I've always, you know, you got to be strong. You got to tell everybody what you're going through. You're not supposed to look like what you're going through, you know. So now I feel more comfortable in my artistry, you know, like talking to Galaxy, her interview. And she was just telling me how she had basically like a performance, an artistic bingo board.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And she was
For
just
her
all
goals.
her
She did a bingo
goals. And I
card.
thought that was so
Yeah.
dope. I was like, that's a way to hold yourself accountable. I get that, you know. And so now, I swear, ever since I started doing this series, I've written like 6 poems. I hadn't written like this since probably the early 2000s,
When we go
literally.
here?
Girl, I'm about to come out there.
We about to switch seats.
In a minute, and I'd be ready for it. I actually did say, I told my daughter, I was like, when you, next time you come over here, because she does a Friday night show, you know, on the radio station.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, next time you come over here, I said, I'm going to do my piece that I did for Motown Mike, and I'm going to do my own vibes and verses. And I said, this time they wanted us to flip a title to a Motown song. So they gave us a list of songs that we could use. Whatever that song was about, your poem had to be titled the same, but it had to flip the concept. So mine was Ain't That Peculiar by Marvin Gaye. And so, of course, he's talking about ain't it peculiar how messed up you treat me, but I still like you.
Did they pick it or you picked the song?
I picked the song.
Okay.
They picked the list, and we could choose from the list. And I called myself picking a song from the older Motown era, you know, in hopes that nobody would pick the same song I picked. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like 50 songs. And so the way I wrote my piece, it was like, ain't it peculiar, you know, how people find so much messed up with the world and with black people. But then they mimic us. They want to. They want everything that's slick about us. You know what I'm saying? One of the lines is, they hate how we rise, but they can't stand when we shine. Like, I mean, damn. You know, so that's what it was written. That's how it was written. And I told my daughter, I said, in between the lines, you got to, when I say ain't that peculiar, you got to sing it. Because
So, you be bullying sis. What's her name, Imani?
Yes.
You be bullying her.
But did you hear her? She's so angelic with it. You know what I'm saying? She a lazy soprano. Truly gifted. You know, and I'm just sitting here. I guess my fear is you're 28, baby. If you just have an inkling more belief and confidence in your talent than I had in mine. Ain't no telling where you can go. You know, because everything's so wide open, and you got a whole broadcast degree. So for real, and we have a studio. So I mean, like, for real, you can like make it. And if you don't like it, you can erase it. Nobody will know.
Right.
But what if you do like it? And what if someone else does? You know what I'm saying? And how will we know? Let's test the theory.
Right.
And see what happens. You know?
What if it works out? What if it goes great?
Exactly, because that's what she did to me. I told her, I got to find something I feel comfortable in to get back on the poetry sector. And she saw the advertisement for Motown Mike in 2022 and put it right on my Facebook page, like, here, mommy.
Right.
And I just was like,
She gonna bully you back.
you see what I'm saying? That's it. She started this. So,
Yeah.
but it was the best thing. It was the best thing because that led to me being able to do this.
Good.
And you guys always make me
Thank you,
feel
Imani. I
right.
appreciate you, sis.
You guys always make me so encouraged. You know what I mean? One of you contact me and be like, hey, is this date cool? And it'd be right at a time where I'd be like, I'm tired, I'm about to give up, you know, and then I'd be like, I can't because Jazmine about to come
Right.
through. It's
I was
about
like,
to go
okay,
down.
she didn't send me the address yet. All right.
Right, and I told you, I said I'm going to send it a couple days, and I said I hit her on Wednesday, and then I got tied up on Thursday and Friday, so I was just like, oh my God, I haven't hit her, so let me ask. She said, okay, cool, let me send her everything. You know, and you came right through.
I would
and
have.
it was
You would
on
have said
time.
not Sunday another day. I would have came another day.
That's so sweet. Thank you very much. Now
Absolutely.
I'm trying to curate and put together something for maybe like the early fall.
Okay.
Because if this series takes fire and goes well, then maybe I'll be able to set you know, a nice Vibin versus Lives and be able to pay you guys, give me a sponsor. So that's what I'm working on. So know that when you don't hear about me, I'm still working. Because if I could do that, I'm like, hey, I'd much rather host. I'll be the sacrificial poet, throw something out there real quick, and then put the fire on the stage. I'm going to do that too.
I'll be the wild card.
Okay, you want to be the wild card?
I'll be the wild card.
Oh, it's not a competition actually, so it's a showcase.
Okay.
What I would put together is I'm trying to make it so that I have sponsors that'll make sure that my artists get paid. I just want to provide a grown and sexy Love Jones-esque event. You know what I'm saying? Because I haven't seen it yet. You know what I mean? Maybe, you know, we get an artist that can come out and that can, you know, that can play behind you guys and y'all can just, you know,
Sweet
freak
as that.
something, do maybe like 2 poems a piece.
Sweet as that.
Yeah, you know, that way, you know, and make it a series where it might be something I can do quarterly. Because I take care of my mom. So at least if I know, you know, 4 times a year won't be too excessive. It'll give me enough time to promote and it'll give me enough time to generate the artists. Because everybody might not be available at the same time.
Right.
You know? So it's an aspiration I'm working on.
So you're doing all of this stuff. You're a caregiver too?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
We gotta stick together, sis.
Oh, you're a caregiver
Yes,
too?
yes.
Okay, okay.
My grandmother.
Wow.
Yep, she lives with me 24/7.
Wow. Yeah, my mother has been with us. She helped raise my daughter, you know. So I left education so that I could be here to take care of her because I'd be calling her through the day to check on her anyway.
No,
you
I need
know.
you here.
Exactly. I needed to be here. And then at that time I had started doing audiobooks. So it worked out perfect having a studio here, you know, because I can make sure I have her together. And as long as I get 1 or 2 hours down here, I started producing my own audiobooks in 2016.
So is it for other authors or?
Both.
Oh my goodness.
Girl, the first time
Yeah,
I did it. Yeah.
Some more.
Look, dude, we got to, because it's funny, we're so underrepresented. And it's better now than it was then. I wound up catching an author, her name was Red, shout out to you, sis. She's in Tennessee, but she wrote the hood fiction. And she had a series called Memphis Housewives.
Okay.
I recorded all 4 of her books. She liked my voice, and I loved it because I got to be as ratchet
Right.
as
Wait till I hear to you on this hood fiction.
I'm telling you, it was fun. And then I worked on a few of her books. I did her series, and then she had a few standalones. When we worked together, we did a royalty exchange thing. And strange thing, she was caregiver at that time too. She was taking care of her mom, so she was writing her books, you know. And girlfriend was putting them out. She was putting them out, and so once we got connected, and we both were willing to work on the royalty share, and her books were selling well, you know. Some of my first checks that I got outside of selling my own books was the royalty checks that I got from her books, you know, and they never die. So, you know, every now and again, every little bit counts.
Right. Then it'd be a surprise sometimes.
Oh, girl. The biggest surprise was I had auditioned for somebody. You know, it was just a book series, and it looked like it was supernatural. And it just looked like it was a really good book, and I had auditioned for all 3 portions of it, and I didn't get selected. Normally when you don't get selected, they don't even tell you, you don't even hear from the author. ACX will just hit you and say, you know, someone else has been selected for the project, keep trying. But this particular author hit me back after they saw that I had, you know, sent in 3 consecutive auditions.
Mhm.
And she was just like, I just want to let you know that I love your voice. She said, but this is a teen book series. And she said, I just feel like your voice is a little heavy,
Okay.
you know, for the characters. At that point, I understood, and I was just gracious that she called and let me know, because I started thinking it was me.
Mhm.
And I was so upset that I didn't get selected or whatever, because everybody been telling me for years, you got a radio voice, you got a radio voice, you know, like, I'm like, okay, I can't tell, they're
Right.
not picking me. So I got mad, you know, and I just was like, well, if nobody will pick me to do their book, then I guess I'll just do my own, you know. And so I had a book out at that time called Toast to the Food. So I literally sat down here every day. It took me about 2 months to do the actual recording, and then probably another good month to edit, you know, to make sure I had it together. But when that author contacted me and let me know that you know, she couldn't use me for that project, she said, but I'm gonna pass off your name because I have some other books with other companies coming out. Come to find out, she had been publishing books for about 10 years prior. She was like, I got another book coming out. She said, is it okay if I pass them, my other publisher, your email? And I said, absolutely, sure. You know, I gave it to her. I didn't think nothing about it. Girl, about 3 days later, Brilliance Publishing in South Lyons was like, we'd like to set you up here. They wanted me to come to Grand Rapids and record for a week. But I was like, I can't leave my mother for
Right.
a week, you know. And so they wound up finding studios on the pond on Northwestern Highway, and they paid for it. It was a director, it was an engineer, and me. They paid for my lunch. I went out there from maybe like 8 o'clock to about 3 for a week and recorded her book. And while I was recording that, I got my first royalty check for my own recording
for her
that I
stuff,
had,
for your
for
stuff.
my stuff that I had started when she rejected me. So I had submitted the files or whatever and didn't think anything about it, and I got like my first little $500 check while I was recording that one. But that one that I was recording in Studios on the Pond, that was for $200 per finished hour. It was a 10-hour book.
Wow.
And I just was like, nah, I didn't get paid for that till like the month later, you know. But I just was like, I could get used to some stuff like this, you know what I mean? And so I was working it real hard for a while. And then my daughter went away to school, and then I was sick with lupus. And that's what kind of slowed me down a little bit. So I still have 7 of my books that are already published on Audible. But I have two more left before my entire collection will be on Audible. They're available in print and in ebook, and most of them are Audible. I got 2 more that I'm working on.
Is your pen name the same, Tia Elise?
No, actually, that's my pen name on my writing is Tracy E. Christian.
Okay.
Tia Elise came later.
Okay.
But Elise is my middle name, so
Oh,
you
okay.
know what I mean. So that's how that came. Yep.
Nice.
Now how we mess around and turn your
I
feature?
told you we was doing
She flipped
split.
it up. She
I'm
did.
trying to get one of these poems out of you. I'm just working up to it.
You might be the one I call and be like, okay, you want to come over here and interview me for
Yeah,
my
let's
private
do
verses?
it.
That would be dope. That would be dope. Plus, I want to make sure I do some new stuff, so I gotta get a couple of them to the head. I got one of
Right,
them.
you say you gotta have them memorized.
Yeah, cause I was a little overzealous when we got that Motown piece. So remember I told you I picked Ain't That Peculiar?
Yeah.
But I had wrote 3 poems. I had picked 3 just in case somebody picked. I didn't want them to come to me at the last minute and be like, you can't
Right,
use that
right.
because Urban picked it, because ain't no way in hell I'm going to do the same poem that the same name as Urban.
Monster.
I'm not going on that.
Right.
You ain't setting me up like that. So I wrote 3, and what was funny is when he was over here, we was talking about that, right? And he was like, you know, when we went to our first meeting for Motown Mike, and everybody was talking about, you know, how they had picked their song or whatever, you know, this and that. And I was like, well, I picked 3. I'm just trying to decide which one I'm going to do. And he was like, he said to himself, well, obviously she's a threat. I was like, yeah, I know you didn't say that.
Let him think that. Let him think that.
But it was so cute. I was so floored. When he said it, I was like, are you kidding? He was like, I mean, come on. They told us to pick 1. You came up in that mug like, I wrote 3. I said, well.
Nothing beats preparation.
Listen. And so the other 2 that wound up coming beyond it are new pieces. I haven't performed them anywhere. You know, one of them I just finished. I had like half of the poem, and I couldn't come up with it. And then I got inspiration out of nowhere. And you ever been writing and you were going one place with it,
Mhm.
but something you said within it, you realized you were at the end? Like, I can end it right here. Something, it will, the poem is Just My Imagination, like from the Temptations. And I was asking, you know, how you want the world to be, how it is now. Is it real or is it just my imagination? But by the end of the piece, I was like, now we're speaking about how we are and what we can be moving forward. And at the end of it, I was like, I realized the new revelation is we have the ability to be better than just our imagination.
And that's it.
Yeah, and that was it. I didn't have to write no more. So I was like, oh, dope. I kind of like this, like
Yeah.
this. That's literally stumbling into it. So, yeah.
That happens sometimes. You get lucky sometimes.
Every now and again, every now and again. So, you know, I got to thank you so much
Absolutely.
for being here. And you've been just a breath of fresh air. And so now we got to make sure you sign that door because you did an interview.
See,
You see what I'm saying? And then you got to sign that door because you performed, mama.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so people can know Jazmine Jamae was here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Absolutely. And you know we can do it anytime. Maybe
Yes.
next time you come through, you can come through on a Saturday so you can hang out on the B-side. That way you hear the music and how we
Sweet.
do it live.
I was hearing the music in my head.
Yeah.
I started to, you know, it was perfect.
Yeah, and that's why I be wearing my headsets because, you know, we get to chilling. And before I know it, I think Urban came over here. His interview was at 3. Urban didn't leave till 6. We was kicking.
Urban's a talker too.
I know, so exactly. So we just sitting here, we was vibing, it was so fun. You know, so I kind of put the music in there to signal me like, girl, you know it's going to take forever for this to upload to YouTube. Wrap it up. So that was how I did it.
Okay.
You know.
Are we done?
Yeah, so thanks guys. I appreciate y'all and I appreciate my sis. And you know we'll be back to y'all real soon with another episode of Vibes and Verses. Take care, y'all. Peace.
Peace, family. It's your girl Jazmine Jamae here on Vibes and Verses. I'm going to do my second piece titled His Father's Music. My son hears Motown for the first time. Notices drums, finds rhythm easy to match, echoes melodies and synchronizes vocal cords to their tones, taps his feet, claps his hands, hums, does what black folks do when music stirs the soul. He does not think about the placement of hands or the movement his body makes, loses control of his range of motion, submits to the inclination of rocking his shoulders and rolling his feet. My son hears Detroit, but only hears my city in cool, does not smell the burning of 12th Street, no riots in Marvin's What's Going On, cannot make out the unplanned pregnancy in Aretha. Tammy's sickness is turned into smiling mountains high and giggling valleys low. He hears Motown and misses the struggle between B and E majors and unbalanced scales, does not comprehend freedom trying to sing its way into our city Motown, gives his eyes rose-colored lenses. So when he senses the way his mother looks at his father when dancing to Stevie Wonder's As, he takes the world for a place that encourages black men to love easily. Not believing this world molds black hearts into Rolling Stones, desperate to be a hit. My son, he's listening to Motown, his father's music, his grandfather's music. When he becomes the background vocals in a routine traffic stop, notices the beat of his father's heart, finds rhythm easy to match, echoes melodies and synchronizes vocal cords to his father's tone, steadies his feet, clasps his hands together, does what black folks do when the music goes silent, witnesses the riot in his daddy's tense shoulders, notices an unplanned situation pregnant with possibility, sickness welling up in his stomach. My baby love finally understood what it means to be living just enough for the city when sons grow up hotter than July. Detroit gives them music and a mirage of master blasters, a hiatus of happy birthday hymns. Black boys become a symphony of suicidal soliloquies that loop from dusk till dawn. Mothers use sports to keep their sons in the key of life, whisper safety lullabies as the first and last lines of defense, my son. Here's Motown now. First, he reminds himself to breathe when he sees the way his mother loves his father, his grandmother, his grandfather, me, him, his limbs refuse to be tamed. He shackles the temptation to run and chooses to dance. Hands up, feet spread apart, echoing his father's rhythm. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so now